Sid Miller is our endorsed candidate for Agriculture Commissioner. And that was an easy decision once we had a set field, because Sid Miller is an outstanding conservative on the social side, on the fiscal side. He really exemplifies our values, and will take those values in the Agriculture Commission job very seriously, and be the sort of advocate for our values, whatever the issue that comes up. I want to read to you just a brief quote, and then we will get to him, from Michael Quinn Sullivan. Sid Miller has proven himself to be a thoughtful conservative policymaker, able to effectively tackle hard issues. Sid Miller understands that government agencies exist to serve the people, not the other way around. Sid Miller has been a champion for Texas taxpayers, protecting property rights and promoting free markets. Just as important, Mr. Miller has a well-earned reputation for honesty and integrity, coupled with a strong work ethic. We join with Texas for Fiscal Responsibility to endorse Sid Miller's candidacy and look forward to his service as Texas's next Agriculture Commissioner. Please welcome.
It's good to be with you tonight. I think in one sentence I can tell you everything you need to know about me. I am pro-life, pro-God, pro-gun, pro-business, pro-family, pro-military, pro-constitution, and anti-Obama. This is one of the few times that I actually am not rushed to, tell you about myself and about my race for Texas Ag Commissioner. So you're going to get the full meal deal tonight. I'm an 8th generation farmer and rancher. My family moved here from England in the 1700s. Settled in South Carolina, fought in the Revolutionary War, the War of Northern Aggression, and after the Civil War we moved to Texas. I've been here for 4 generations farming and ranching. I make my living off the land, I always have. I've grown various crops. I had cattle, sheep, goats, hogs. I raised American quarter horses. I've raised world champion quarter horses. I still rodeo myself, so I was telling someone earlier, I think God used my rodeo career to prepare me for this race, because as a rodeo cowboy, I'm used to riding at 8 o'clock at night, and driving all night, and roping in the slack the next morning, and driving to the next rodeo, trying to get 10 rodeos in 5 days. So this is old hat to me. So the only difference is I don't have to pull a trailer and a horse, so it's a lot easier this way. So I don't mind driving to Lubbock tonight. I also have a nursery operation, and I live in Stephenville, where we grow trees. I have a beautiful wife and 2 sons that have brought me 2 beautiful daughter-in-laws and 2 beautiful grandchildren. My wife and I have been married 36 years, and somebody asked me, that's kind of unusual in today's society to stay with one woman. She's my childhood high school sweetheart. But I'll just share with you what has worked for us. Maybe it'll help your marriage. But when we first got married, we decided that we'd take, without fail, 1 night a week, go out just by ourselves, spend some quality time alone, reflect, and it's worked great for us. I go on Tuesday nights. She goes on Thursday nights. I'm not trying. It's worked for us. I spent 6 terms in a Texas house, and I don't mean to take a shot at any of these guys running for office, but to do this, you got to be pretty self-confident, maybe just a little cocky. You got to think a lot of yourself to get up here and do stuff like this. So sometimes it's hard to be humble when they call you Mr. Chairman or Senator or Congressman. They open the door for you and all that. But my wife has always kept me humble. And my first election was in 2000, same year that Bush had won. He didn't win. He won. He didn't win that night. I ran against an incumbent Democrat, and a Republican had never held the office before, at least not since the Civil War. And I was what they call a third-tier candidate. There's only 3 tiers. So we worked really, really hard. I didn't know I couldn't win, but we knocked on like 12 or 15,000 doors, and we moved up to a second-tier candidate and then a first-tier candidate. And that night, the ballots got wet in the biggest county, and half the votes weren't in. And finally, about 2 o'clock in the morning, we found out that we had won. You know, hear that, you know, I'm feeling pretty good, right? 10 foot tall, I'm the giant slayer. I'm starting to think I'm somebody. My mama would say, you're getting a little too big for your britches. So we go home, and we're laying in bed about 3 a.m., and I'm still wide awake thinking, you know, man, I'm slaying the dragon. So I'm laying there, and Deborah's trying to go to sleep, and I said, honey, in your wildest dreams, did you ever think you'd be married to a state representative? She thought about it a minute. She said, well, to be perfectly honest with you, you're not in my wildest dreams. She has a way of bringing me down when I get a little too big for my britches. I graduated from Tarleton State University with a degree in production agriculture. By the way, I'm the only candidate in this race that has a degree in agriculture. Some of them have law degrees or business degrees or accounting degrees, but none of them have that. And I spent the early part of my adult career as an ag teacher, teaching the youth of this state about production agriculture and preparing them to take over their family farm or to enter into agriculture. And I think that's important, and I think that is one of the duties of the Texas Agriculture Commissioner. We only have about 2% of the people in Texas involved in production agriculture. And to me, the main reason I got into this race is I see Texas becoming too much like California. California was once the breadbasket of the world. It no longer is. But I was raised on a farm and ranch, and I was up before daylight, and we did chores for an hour and a half, then we came in and ate breakfast, and then we went to school. So it's that same Texas values, it's that rural heritage. It's our culture, our Western way of life that I want to make sure that Texas still has that representation in the legislature, and that we maintain that. I think it's important. I think that's who Texas is. That's what we are in Texas, and I want to preserve that. I served on the Farm Bureau as a director. I've always been involved in organizations in my community. I was president of the Dublin Peanut Farmers Cooperative. I've been a lifetime member since the 70s of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Currently serve on the board of the Choices Pregnancy Crisis Center there in Stephenville. In the Texas House, I served as first on the Agriculture and Livestock Committee, then Vice Chairman of the Agriculture and Livestock Committee, and then I chaired the Agriculture and Livestock Committee. And the reason that's important in this race is that's the committee that actually has oversight of the Texas Department of Agriculture. We develop the budget, we develop the rules and regulation, and work directly with the Commissioner of Agriculture. So I'm the only one in the race that actually has a deep, vast working knowledge of that agency. That was under Speaker Craddock. I supported Speaker Craddock and went down to the ship, and Joe Strauss busted me off that committee. I mean, he busted me off the chairmanship. I couldn't even get back on the committee. But next election came around, and people were really irate that the Democrats had helped select the Speaker of the Texas House, and I agreed. And I demanded that, like many of you, that the Speaker be selected by the Republican caucus. And we held that meeting at my request. Larry Taylor was chairman of the caucus at that time. I had previously been chairman of the House Republican caucus. So we held that election. Joe Strauss won. So we went to the floor, and the only man nominated was Joe Strauss. So I spent one whole session, that I couldn't pass anything for my district or for the state, but I got really good at killing bills. One thing an ag teacher does is teaches parliamentary procedure, and I knew it well. And I actually got an award from Texas Insider for best executioner of the session. But, you know, my folks didn't send me down there for that. They sent me down there to get things done for them back home. So I had a choice to make that day. I could either vote for the only man nominated, or I could vote no and stick my finger in his eye again and still not be able to serve in the district. So I voted for him. I was named chairman of the Homeland Security and Public Safety. I was able to get some good legislation passed. I was author of the Texas sonogram bill. I was able to strip $21 million away from Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry. Dan Patrick was my sponsor in the Senate on that. And another bill that kind of was famous for, kind of eclectic group of bills I passed that session, but I was the one that passed the new law to allow you to hunt wild hogs out of helicopters. Saving babies and killing hogs. I don't know how that all works together. But as chairman of Homeland Security, we had, in public safety, we had jurisdiction over Texas Rangers, DPS, emergency evacuation, kind of important to this part of the state. And our main job was to help secure the Texas border. In 2006, the Texas legislature, under the direction of Rick Perry, decided we've had enough. The federal government is not securing our border. We're going to start doing what we can as a state to secure that. And folks, it's a lot worse than you think. And let me just put it in perspective. From 2006 until now, in Iraq and Afghanistan both, we've lost a little over 5,000 soldiers. That's tragic. In that same period of time, in that 1,200-mile stretch of Texas-Mexican border, there's been over 50,000 murders, 10 times what we suffered in Iraq and Afghanistan. And that's just the ones we know about. So tell them how many we'll never find. So we set out to do that. Worked with Colonel McCraw, who's head of the DPS and the Rangers. What we've done, and you don't read about this in the paper because it's not reported, border cities don't want it getting out. They still want the tourists to come. We took that 1,200-mile stretch of border and divided up into 6 regions, 200 miles each, and put a Texas Ranger in charge. Everybody remember the story, one Ranger? One Ranger for every 200 miles. The law enforcement in that area, no one talked to each other. The Border Patrol didn't talk to the Rangers, the Rangers didn't talk to the county sheriff, the sheriff didn't talk to municipalities, and the Border Patrol didn't talk to the Parks and Wildlife. So in each one of these 6 areas, we have a joint operations center, and we brought everyone together, and everyone has an assignment. The DPS, we patrol the air and the water. We have helicopters on the border down there patrolling it. You may not know this, but while I was chairman, we reconstituted the Texas Navy. We have a Navy again. We put 34-foot armor-plated boats on the Rio Grande. They have 300 horsepower outboard engines. They have 6 machine gun turrets, 40 caliber machine gun turrets on it. And we've seen a big reduction in the cartel traffic and illegal narcotics and drugs coming across. Since we've done that, we've seen illegal immigration and human trafficking reduced in Texas 40%, and the illegal drugs coming into our state is down 60%. So we're not there yet, but we're making great progress. Dan Patrick called me, and I think this was in 2007 one day, and he had a great idea. He said, I think we need to start a legislative Tea Party caucus. He said, I'll chair it up over here in the Senate, and I'd like you to see if you could get it going over in the House. So with Dan Patrick, I was one of the founding members of the legislative Tea Party caucus. It has grown each and every session. I think there's over 74 House members and 11 or 12 senators that are members now. It's become a powerful force in Austin. We meet once a week and have Tea Party leaders come in and share their thoughts with the legislature. So you've been very effective. If you've been to any of those meetings, you know what I'm talking about. The race is going real good. We got in late, but we got off to a good start. We immediately became front runner when a good friend of mine agreed to be my treasurer and state co-chair, Ted Nugent. I mean, he's a great freedom fighter, and he says American blood brother. He's helping us in our campaign, and we appreciate that. We've had a lot of great support over the state, a lot of good endorsements. It seems like we've gotten just about all of the conservative endorsements from the groups like Texas Right to Life, Young Conservatives of Texas, Conservative Republicans of Texas, Texas for Fiscal Responsibility, Michael Quinn Sullivan's group, Texas Homeschool Coalition. We've also had a number of agriculture groups. We're the only candidate in the race that has both conservative groups and agriculture groups endorsing us. We've got the Texas Border Horse Association, Crop Dusters, Exotic Wildlife Association, Texas Agricultural Aviation Association. We'll have more. About half of them have not endorsed yet, but they will by the end of the month, and we expect to pick up several more. I did not get the endorsement of the Farm Bureau, the cattle raisers, or the Wildlife Association. And the main reason is I just think it's inherently wrong to take good corn and whiskey and pour it into your fuel tank. I don't support ethanol. I don't like that. And also, I fought all three groups in the legislature when they tried to implement mandatory animal ID and mandatory premise ID. So they weren't happy with me over that either. So, but anyway, we've got a lot of Tea Party groups, 912 groups that are supporting us. North Texas Tea Party has endorsed us. Judy McCarty with the Northeast Tarrant County group has endorsed us. Toby Marie Walker with the Waco Tea Party, the Hood County Tea Party, ERAF 912, and several others. And of course, Patriots PAC, we're glad to have that one. That's good, and we appreciate that. And also, conservative leaders across the state are supporting our campaign, like Kathy Adams, who's a former boss of my chief opponent in this race, has endorsed us. Kelly Shackelford with the Liberty Institute, Michael Quinn Sullivan, David Barton with Wall Builders, Michelle Smith with Concerned Women of America, Jonathan Sines with Texas Values, Tim Lambert with Homeschool Coalition, and several others. We've had over 24 state elected officials, state representatives, congressmen that are supporting our campaign, numerous SREC members, so we feel good. We think we're on the right path. So far, of all the voter guides that have been issued, we're on all of them, and that's huge. That's great. Especially in this part of the state. I mean, you know, and I'm sure this group feels the same way. But as I look at our country and the direction it's going, you know, I see us looking like some socialist countries in Europe. We're just headed that way. But I have a great faith in the American people that we can turn this thing around. We're just going to have to start right here in Texas. We're going to have to lead the way. We're going to have to lead the way. And you know, if you're a officer in this club or a precinct chairman, would you just stand a minute? Let us see who you are. Please stand up. If you're running for office, stand up. Put it up, everybody. We're in the heartbeat of Republican politics in Texas. So it means to start right here in this room with you. You're the movers and shakers that can take our country back. So God bless you for doing that and being here tonight. There's one endorsement that I don't have yet, and it's the most important endorsement that I could have during this election. And I'm hoping to get that tonight. That would be your individual support. I hope to get it. Go to millerfortexas.com. Check out our website. We're on Facebook. It's expensive to run across the state. We're always needing funds. You can go online, make a donation, or mail us one. That would help. $5, $10, $100, whatever whatever you can afford, it would be much appreciated. But it's good to be with you tonight. I'm going to take a few questions, and if I like them, I'll answer them. So I'll open it up for comments or questions. Yes, sir.
Well, when you win, will Ted Nugent bring his band together?
We're trying. There's 5 people in the race, and we couldn't get a date with Ted Nugent before March 4th. And he's having both knees replaced. He tore up his knees from jumping off the stage too many times. But we're looking for a date at, what's Michael Berry's place? Redneck Country Club, maybe in April or around the 1st of May. But you'll know it, believe me. When we have it, you'll know it. I'll let you know. So hopefully we can get him to come to the area. Sure.
So, what would you say to folks that might be looking for another speaker battle if there is not a candidate with a path to victory? Procedurally, is there anything that can be done procedurally, such as insisting on a secret ballot in the caucus, or something equivalent to, like a discharge petition in Washington, where you get enough signatures and you have to bring something to the floor to get around the control that the speaker has of chairmanship?
You know, I think you'll see that the speaker thing will be seriously challenged. I know Scott Turney's a good man. I wish he hadn't have announced when he did. I wish he'd waited till after the primary date, because Speaker Strauss now is redoubling his efforts to make sure that his enemies are defeated. So it's caused some problems. It's unfortunate for some very good people that had a really good chance of winning those seats back. But I can't divulge who, but I think there will be a even more senior member challenge Strauss once the runoff elections are over, probably by July or August. You should look for a new announcement. Depending on how the elections go, I think there's a strong possibility that the speakership could turn over this time. I really do.
Good news.
You know, I can't speak for the caucus. When we did it, I can tell you what happened before. It was a standing vote. And there was 3 candidates at that time: Ken Paxton, Warren Chisholm, and Joe Strauss. And they drew straws to see who would go first. And when Strauss drew to go first, and he had about 70 people stand up, and the other 2 candidates didn't, conceded basically at that time. So, but that one was a standing vote. A secret ballot would sure make it a lot easier. If you could talk them into it, it would be good. It would be a precedent that has never been done in the House or the Senate that I know of.
Is that in the rules?
It's in the House rules on the floor, but the caucus has its own rules, its own bylaws. It would have to be addressed prior to the election. Yes, sir.
I understand you work with the Homeland Security. Do you coordinate with the federal Homeland Security? I've read that there's a 100-mile radius on the border that's there's no constitution there. That they can, if you come across the border with an iPad, laptop, phone, or whatever, that they can look at it, seize it, do whatever they want. You really have no rights. Can you comment on that? They seem to be heavy-handed with the 1.8 billion rounds of hollow point, the 2,700 MRAP vehicle, the 7,000 personal defense weapons.
I think what you're referring to is federal law. There's no state law that, of course, allows that to happen. Unfortunately, as chairman of the Homeland Security in the State House, we have no jurisdiction over that.
So you
But,
can't comment.
I think it would be, warrant some, research on and looking into if that is actually happening. Next? Yes, sir.
What do you feel like the most pressing issue is in the office you're seeking, and what are you planning to do about it?
One of the things that I plan to do is, the next agricultural commissioner, if I'm fortunate enough to win the race, is I'll do something that no commissioner's ever done before. I'll make water my number one issue. Matter of fact, the first thing I intend to do is to appoint a deputy commissioner of agriculture in charge of water. And the guy I'm thinking about is a water engineer. Here's the problem we have. For years, Texas was sparsely populated, and we were watered with windmills, and everybody was happy. But now we're up to about 26 million people, and we have a finite amount of water. You know, we don't set below the Great Lakes. We've just got so much water. So we've come to a point in our history where we have to manage that water better than we have done in the past. This last constitutional election, the voters approved rating the rainy day fund for $2 billion. So that's set aside. Constitutional election prior to that, voters approved $6 billion in bonds. So there's $8 billion of your taxpayer money sitting over here in a pile. The problem is that same last piece of legislation took the Texas Water Development Board from 6 members down to 3. Those 3 guys are good guys, but doesn't mean 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now they're going to be our guys in charge of that money, and that's a 50-year project. So as Ag Commissioner, I want to make sure that we have a system of checks and balances. By the way, there's no agricultural representation on that Water Development Board anymore. It's gone. That constitutional election that took the $2 billion away from the out of the rainy day fund, there was only 10% set aside for rural projects. I was a very reluctant supporter of that. I don't think it should be rating the rainy day fund. To fund everyday government. They increased the budget over $25 billion. I think they could have found the money in there. But it is what it is. But we need someone besides those 3 guys over there seeing where that money goes. Now, let me clarify that. Texas has a 50-year water plan. We're on top of this. So don't worry. I mean, it's not like something we just woke up and thought about. We've divided the state up into 16 regions. Each one of those regions is developing their water needs, and they're going to turn those in. We've got 11 new reservoirs planned across the state. You know, one of the things that I want to make sure we do is something we can work on quick, and that's being a conservative. I think we should conserve our water. We have a lot of water loss. Some of our larger municipalities, from the time they receive the water until they deliver it to the customer, they're losing 30% of that water. That is totally unacceptable. Agriculture can do its part too. We can improve our irrigation systems, upgrade those systems that have less water evaporation, wind erosion, water erosion. We can put in new pumps and pipe that have less friction loss, and a lot of things that we can do. We can improve crops that require less water. But I want this group to understand the importance of agriculture in our economy here in Texas and the United States. Because to me, it's a matter of national security. We've got to make sure that agriculture has a balanced, even playing field with industry, municipalities, rural communities, and the farmers and ranchers. All have to have a seat at the table. If Texas or the United States ever gets to the point where we can no longer feed ourselves, and we're dependent on some foreign power for our subsistence, we will lose all of our freedoms. So it's that important to me. That's why I'm running for this office. Yes?
Is the group doing anything for desalinization water?
Yes. Desalinization would be the second thing we can get right on top of after conservation. The city of El Paso is already doing that. Most of the water shortages in west of I-35, those West Texas towns out there, a lot of those are hauling water in for their own water needs now. But there's a lot of what it's called brackish water out there. The desalinization can clean that up. We need to switch from using fresh water in the fracking and drilling industry to the brackish water and recycle that water. We can do a lot of things immediately, smarter, and with very little money to improve our current water situation. But desalinization, it needs to be a part of that. Yes, sir.
Is any of those funds, or not that they should be spent, when municipalities have money to fix their problems, but the city of Houston, for example, how much water they waste by busted lines, is there anything gonna be done about that?
Well, that's what I said on conservation, we need to get on top of that. The last $2 million is not, if there is any good news about rating the rainy day fund, that $2 billion is basically earmarked as a force multiplier. It's not necessarily going to be loaned out, but it'll be used to leverage other loans, to guarantee those loans, bring interest rates down, and as those loans are paid off by water districts or municipalities or river authorities, that will be rolled in for someone else to, so it's a revolving account, and basically that is used as a surety or guarantee, that $2 billion. Now the other 6 will actually be allocated for projects. Yes, sir.
One water problem that we have around here is 90% of our water is coming from wells. And we have a company that's trying to put in an oxygen well here, and they're currently being battled in court over it. And this is an old oil field, which we don't know where all the old oil wells are. They're going down the same formation and wanting to inject toxic materials down in there. And I hope that when you become agriculture commissioner, you'll be able to persuade the environmental protection, our Texas Environmental Protection Agency that they've ruled wrong and granted these people permit.
Okay, I'll comment on that. Again, we've come to a point in a time in Texas history where we have to start managing our water. The state kind of scratched its head on this a few years ago and said, well, look, these communities won't manage their water. We'll come in and do it for them. So you can pick the lesser of the 2 evils. You can form a local government entity to manage your groundwater, or you can let the state do it. So the lesser of the 2 evils is to form a groundwater management district. So you elect the directors, they set up the rules and guidelines, and that is working real well, and we have local control in those areas for that. Yes, sir.
That's not the point. The point is this, the company wants to inject toxic material down into a formation that has been perforated by oil wells that probably aren't important properly, which will allow a lot for that material to come back up and contaminate the water.
There's always a possibility and always a concern. We have a separate state agency called TCEQ,
Right.
Texas Environmental Quality Control. It monitors all of those oil and gas wells, whether they be active or dormant, and have those located. So you're getting something way more technical than I can answer tonight in this particular case. There's several of those cases around the state. Yes, sir.
That is something to do. They told us right. The one thing you didn't mention is the fact that the most oil wells are 10, 12, 15,000 feet deep. The Conroe field is anywhere from 2,800 to 5,000 feet, so it's a very shallow. Yeah, it's very shallow. So that's what's so critical about this. It's an old saltwater disposal well that was turned in, and they're trying to turn it into a toxic well. So it's a huge issue, and it's a, we'll talk after.
I'll be glad to visit with you on that. I'm probably going to have to be educated a little more on that one particular case. Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain why the agricultural agency has been removed from supervision? So there's no representative on.
Well, the Texas, let me just tell you what the Texas Ag Department does. They've never really monitored water. One of the $500 million agency with a $2 billion pass-through. The $2 billion is pass-through from the USDA on nutritional programs, school lunch program, school breakfast program, Meals on Wheels, and things like that. So that's the biggest expenditure that most people don't know that the ag department is in charge of all the school lunch and nutritional programs. The second thing the Texas Agriculture Department does that you may not know is we're in charge of all the weights and measures. So Texas Department of Agriculture calibrates every gas pump in the state. You buy and sell gold, you have to calibrate your scales. You weigh trucks, if you weigh postage, anything has to do with volume and weights is certified by the Texas Department of Agriculture. And then the obvious things like egg inspection and nursery and floral inspection and plant quarantines and of course promoting Texas agriculture and agriculture products and promoting the Texas agriculture economy and bringing jobs to the state is part of it. And then encouraging young people to enter farming, forming young farmer programs and things like that. So that's kind of a very quick overview of what the department does, but it never had view over the water. So, and let me just back up, maybe I should explain that better. There's surface water in the state and there's groundwater. The state of Texas owns all the surface water and always has. If it reaches a moving channel, it belongs to the state. The state is divided, the state up in, Texas up in regions, and each one of those regions is governed by a river authority. Colorado River Authority, the Trinity, the Brazos, and they manage all of that, make sure the cities, municipalities, different municipalities get their allocation and the farmers get what they need. But groundwater, we live under what is called the rule of capture. And that's if the water under your land, you own it. You can get it to the top of the ground and capture it. It's yours. But these groundwater districts are put in now to make sure that you only capture your water and that you don't suck the water out from under your neighbor. So that's kind of a quick overview of how water works in Texas. We're one of the few western states where the landowner, surface owner, owns the groundwater rights. Most states you buy it just like royalty on a oil or gas well. Yes, sir.
Dr. Turner set this up, and everybody's waiting for the answer to this. How long is it going to take you to get back to Lubbock?
I think I can get there. I have to go through Steveville, so I'm gonna stop and get some breakfast and a shower and a new set of clothes, and I think I can get there in about 11 or 12 hours if I do that.
Well, Michael Berry says you ought to pop a top too. Are you going to pop a top?
Pop a top.
Yeah, he's on his pop a top. That every Texan ought to have the right to do that. But I want to ask you, are you going to, when you go back, what tapes do you listen to, or radio stations?
You know, I don't listen to, there's only two kinds of music that I listen to, country and western. And I listen to mostly talk radio.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, there's some good ones. I'll be repeat. Okay.
One more question, or I'll take as many as you got, actually.
Can you talk about the feral hog problem in Texas? How bad is it? What are they doing?
Sure, it is a huge problem, and I've already waged war on the hogs. I mentioned earlier that I passed a bill to allow Texas farmers and ranchers to hunt them out of helicopters. It's a $500 million, $500 million a year damage by those wild hogs, and they carry all kinds of diseases, brucellosis that's transmitted to humans, cholera, rabies, pseudo-rabies, all kinds of things. They're a vector for hoof and mouth disease. If an eco-terrorist wants to damage the Texas agriculture economy, all they have to do is infect our feral hogs, and we'll never get rid of it with one of those diseases. It's gotten to a point where it's no longer just agricultural damage that they're wreaking havoc on. They're starting to get into our suburbs and our cities, tearing up golf courses, turning over tombstones and graveyards. The city of Irving, where the Cowboys trained, trapped 300 head on the Trinity River. So it is a real problem. But we took a liability of these hunters, and the best way that you can eradicate them is with a helicopter. And prior to my law, the farmers and ranchers would have to hire a helicopter, sometimes at $300 an hour, to come in and fly all day, 8 or 10 hours. It's very expensive, and eradicate as many hogs as they could. And what my bill did was allow that landowner it's not just one landowner, it'll be a whole group. They like to get 20 or 30,000 acres in a group, and most landowners will happy to do it. And they can sell that seat on that helicopter for a certain amount. I mean, there's lots of guys that love to go up and shoot hogs. So what we did, we took a liability for the farmer and rancher, turned it into an asset. We now have 130 operators doing the license to hunt feral hogs out of helicopters and take you up and hunt. So we took a liability and turned it into job creation, creates millions of dollars in revenue for farmers and ranchers. So it's been a win-win all the way around, and plus we're getting rid of the hogs. But we've got to do more than just that, just to contain them. The state of Texas was spending $25 million a year on feral hog eradication. And I had actually got one of the most liberal members of the Texas House to vote for my bill in committee, Donna Howard. And she was all against guns and all against, killing the poor little piggies and all of that. And I said, Donna, we spend $25 million letting those feral hogs off the Texas coast to keep them from eating the endangered sea turtles' eggs. I'm for that. So, I got it. Next question. God bless each and every one of you. My phone number's on those handouts tonight. I've got the blue bonnet seeds, platinum in September, vote in November. God bless you. Thank you.